Okay. First off, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So this is Rich Pendergast. We're going to start the WPCA meeting for the town of Old Lyme officially now. We had some technical difficulties with WebEx, a bad link apparently on the town's website. The Microsoft Word document had the correct link, so I apologize for that confusion. We have Randy Nixon, who's excused. We do have a quorum, but we are missing Andrea Lombard and Dmitry Tolchinsky. I imagine they're going to MacGyver this and maybe get in and get on to this meeting as we go. Tonight's meeting, I think, is largely about an update. There's some discussion that we're going to have. Right now, as you may or may not know, this is the time of the year that the Finance Board of Finance has a look at past budgets, the finalizing last year and updating next year. So that's going to spend a little bit more time on that discussion. We're going to have an update on the sewer projects. We're going to have some correspondence, and we're going to have a very small new business. We will have a chance for public comment, and then we'll have an adjournment. There is no executive sessions tonight, so it's pretty straightforward as it should be. With this, was there a comment? Okay. With this, the first thing is to do is the approval of the minutes from June 8th. In case you're wondering what happened to July, we skipped July. We had a lot of things going on, but we didn't have a lot of activity to have a meeting for the WPCA. We normally have an optional August meeting, which we're having now instead of July. Anyways, so may I have a motion to approve the minutes from June 8th, 2021?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
James did motion. Do I have a second? I think Frank's hand went up. I couldn't see. I was writing a note down. So I'll do Frank as the second. Open discussion. Any adjustments, clarifications to the meeting minutes? Okay. I'm going to call for a vote, and the way we do this when we do WebEx is that we're going to poll each member and ask them. So all those in favor, Frank, are you in favor? You can put your hand up if you're afraid.
I abstained because I was in Colorado that month.
Okay. Joe, you accept or?
I have to abstain too because I wasn't there either.
Just so you know, you don't have to abstain because you weren't there, but you have to abstain for, but you're allowed to. Okay.
All right. Well, let me change it then. I read the minutes. They seem okay to me, so I will vote to accept them.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Steve?
Yeah.
How do you vote?
Yay. Yay.
Okay. James Burge?
Accept.
Okay. Robert McCarthy?
Aye.
Okay. So it's unanimous voting. Motion carries. Moving on to the next item, the budget update and expenses. At this point, Joe, did you want to share your screen, or do you want to talk it through, or how do you want to go with this?
I'd like to share the screen. I think it'll make things a lot more clear. Let's see how this works.
So you should have a share content button on the bottom. I think that's how it's done.
Yep. Just let me know when you can see.
Something's happening.
All right.
Got a couple advertisements I had to click through, but what I see is it looks like the carryover.
Yes.
No, it looks like last year's budget that was drafted and we got like hours ago.
Yes, this is exactly what I want to show. So to give everybody a quick rundown, this is the budget, our last budget, and the remainder. If you look here on the right hand column, we had about 23% of our total budget. So the reason I'm letting you know this is essentially in the essence of full disclosure. We didn't blow through our entire $90,000 budget last time. So we had to keep that in mind for this budget cycle. And now I'm going to share, I hope. Okay, here's our new budget. Can everybody see it?
I can see it looks like a Excel spreadsheet with the budget on the top summarized. Yep.
Yes. Okay. So this is summary of our new budget. We're budgeted for a total of $88,948 for this budget cycle. As you can see here, there have been no expenditures or expenses, so we still have 100% of this budget theoretically remaining. However, now's a good time to point out that we did not opt to keep the lion's share of our carryovers. What we did, however, was keep some money for legal fees related to the new London Ima. So I wanted everybody to know that. And, looking back to last budget, I think it's also important to note that with these consultant fees and legal fees and this being the first time we're doing something like this, it was a little bit hard to budget for that. Overall, though, last budget cycle, I thought we did well. So now moving on to this budget, again, no expenditures, but down here underneath, I took some, some money that will be leaving us into account. So I thought I'd share it here. As you can see here, we have a lot of Fuss and O'Neill charges here. Most of the Fuss and O'Neill invoices were approved on June 22nd of this year. There's a $2,000 one that is still going through the motions. So actually what I should do, and I apologize, I did not sum up these potential expenditures, but I will do so right now. Oh, and we also have $3,000 for Carmody. So we have a total of about $16,700 that's ready to go out the door for various expenses, mostly consultancy fees and legal fees. And right now, that's where we are. We're up to date. Rich, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Thank you for doing this work. That's what I have to add.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody have any questions before I mute myself?
Looks like Steve's got a question. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, Joe, thanks. It's so much easier to follow when it's in a spreadsheet. The question I have is, these are June 22nd expenses, which are last fiscal year, correct? Are they going to be paid? Are they going to be paid out of last year's budget?
Joe, if I could answer that,
Yeah,
yes, that was the plan.
Okay.
We submitted them, and the last year's budget, that 20,000, Nicole told us, the head of finance at the town of Olam told us that that's the snapshot today, but it could change. And we submitted these things, so they should already be taken out of, with the exception of the 2024, which we requested, and we haven't got confirmation from Nicole.
Yeah, so that's a great question, Steve. Thanks for asking that. What I will do going for the next meeting is I'll have this next column here, column D. I'll have some indication of whether or not it was paid and whether it came from the last budget or this budget. But I fully expect them all to come from the previous budget. But I think in all of our best interests, I'll document which budget it comes out of here in column D.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Is there any other questions? So, Joe, don't get discouraged that all this work shows up in a 5-minute discussion.
I'm not discouraged at all, Rich.
Okay. So a review of any new invoices accepted. I'm not aware of any new invoices. That 2024 that you identified already is, like we said, going through the process. It's part of a pre-approved motion, but I'm not aware of any other new invoices.
I have
So-
none. I went back to all email correspondence since becoming treasurer, and I didn't find any. So anything we get going forward will be applied to this budget.
Okay,
So
very good.
I think we're up to date.
Excellent. So, Steve, do you have a question?
Yeah, we have one outstanding item, which was that $20,000 bill for the bond attorney.
Yes.
Have we resolved that, or what's going on with that?
We have not resolved that. I guess this is the best place to put it. So we put in money for this year's budget to pay it off. What I'm trying to get from the bond council is the agreement that we apparently signed, or the town signed. I don't know if it's part of their master service agreement, but I don't remember. And I talked to the former first select woman and the current first select man, and we don't know. As far as I know, I didn't find any invoices in the past. And the problem is that amount of money is a lot of money, but it spans multiple years. So, and we do need the bond council in the future. So it's not like we can not pay it, but I'm still working on trying to get to the principal at the bond council to give me the details. So,
Thank you.
any other questions? Okay. Now, it seems like I got a hazard mark next to James Bird, so I'm not sure if he can hear us. So I guess we're going to continue on and go from there and do our best we can. So now I'm going to move on to item 4, Soundview Sewer Miscellaneous Project B. The first item is the status of the cost sharing agreements with the IMAs, East Lyme and New London. It may not sound like a big deal since the last meeting, but we have signed all the agreements for New London. That's us, the private beach associations. So it's myself, the first selectman, the president of the WPCAs, and the president of each association have all signed them. We sent the documents to New London. New London has not yet received them. They should have, or they should have any day. We are also scheduled to cut a check for the signing of this agreement the end of this week. The first selectman said he would personally handle that and talked to the finance director. She confirmed today that she has not yet had the conversation with Tim. That was like 10 a.m. this morning. But I expect that to go. And so the New London thing, I expect to be done within a week or two. We will get a copy back signed and we'll put it into the company, the town's folders. Before I move on, is there any questions on the New London IMA? Okay, I'm not seeing any and I'm not hearing any. The East Lyme IMA, we have the same attorney who was on vacation last week, promised to get back in touch with their attorney this week, and they've had requested us to request this IMA, which we've done multiple times. I believe their attorney is misinformed. The first selectman is going to talk to their first selectman, who's also their WPCA chairman, and ask what the status is or what the problem is. All the people that are in it from the technology point of view and the cost point of view agree to this and agree to the terms and even drafted the document. We have not yet received it because we're working through lawyers, and we're going to try to push the lawyers to either step aside or produce or something, because we're not sure what the holdup is. Any questions on that part? Okay. The next line item is design review considerations. And there's a couple things I remember from the last time is well abandonment update. And we had some discussion about the new bid process and how that affects our design. And I guess I'll turn the microphone over first to Steve Tsunami if you have any things about the design review task force to talk about this at this point.
Well, just the, I think we're waiting for Jennifer or information on who has replied to the well abandonment issue. But this prompted me to think that maybe the design committee should meet in the next week and discuss the status and what I have a feeling is the lack of response to our letters. Because if everyone responded, I'd probably have that information right now. And see how we want to go about addressing the issue of well abandonment. So I will call a meeting of the design committee and we could discuss it there. Unfortunately, I haven't, it hasn't been in the forefront of my mind until this meeting. So I'll call one in the next week or two and we'll try to get a plan of action for the next meeting.
Okay. The design review committee is probably going to have to ratchet up the workload once we get the IMAs done, and then we're like officially got funding to start going through the design, because like right now we're in a holding pattern. So don't feel like you're not doing anything. You're doing what you can do at this time. That's my comment. Frank, did you want to add anything to this, or did you have a thing to relate it to this?
Yeah, so far we only have a handful of past definitive responses from the about 20 letters that were sent out. And we can send it out again, but I think we probably end up sleeving a lot of the pipes because of the non-response. But it's really a loss for folks who don't take the opportunity. But,
yeah, I think that's not uncommon.
Yeah.
Lack of response or lack of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else, Frank?
No.
All right. So I'm going to move on to the next item, which is item 4A III, the sewer ordinance gap update and planning. And this is where I'll hand this back over to Frank if you want to give a summary of where we are. I've been watching the email traffic, but you've been managing it. Go ahead.
Yeah, on the ordinance, our town lawyer has finished his review to return comments back to me yesterday. None of those comments are substantial, so I think we can move ahead to public comment on the ordinance.
Okay, so that's good news. And it took a while, I guess, for him to come back to say there's not much to change. But
I probably tried to 6 hours for it, but
it is a long document to read. But
it's not that exciting either.
No, that's true. Are there any questions about the sewer ordinance gap planning? Okay, I'm not seeing any. I'm not hearing any. So we're moving right along here. Correspondence. I'd send a correspondence to the WPCA members, and this was a complaint from an engineering company that did some work for Woodard and Curran on behalf of the town of Old Lyme, asking for their money. I explained to them, and the state explained to them, that we don't have the IMAs in place, therefore we don't have the deep funding, therefore we can't pay him. there was a little misunderstanding where he thought that he was authorized to do work, or his company was authorized to do work for the town of Old Lyme, so therefore he should get paid, and we should have planned for it. He did not get authorization from the town of Old Lyme to do work for the benefit of the town of Old Lyme. He did it on his own ahead of time, in my opinion. We plan on paying all our bills, and that's what this correspondence goes back and forth with. He copied the state of Connecticut and the person that sometimes works on the funding of these type of projects. And if that person can give us our funding now, we would have no problem. So it's a back and forth and exchange. He asked to meet with us in person. I offered to meet in person. I haven't heard anything from them. I did point out that if he's just going to yell and scream at me or try to badger us, that's not going to work into his favor. So does any of the WPCA members have questions or concerns about this?
Do we have a clear idea what our legal standing is with respect to this conflict?
We have a contract, and it's clear that the contract says that we authorize Wood and Curran. And if Wood and Curran suggests, recommends a subcontractor, that we have a documentation of that. We do not have a documentation of that with the subcontractor. They didn't ask us. We weren't recommended. We didn't authorize, hey, go ahead and do this. In the past, we have. When we had to do some site planning and some well identification surveys, we went out and we did a motion, said, okay, this money, we're going to spend it. If you remember, we did well locations in the Hawks Nest area as an example. So I did not ask our legal counsel to review this to see what the deal is, but it's my interpretation that we don't. And there's a special section of page 5 of the contract that allows Wood and Curran and us, based on permits and the state of Connecticut's deep, to adjust the schedule. They adjusted the schedule saying you can't get your funding until you do the IMAs. So, you know, and honestly, what happened, because I've heard this through a couple of different companies and I've seen it in my own business. Companies were not busy during COVID. They took and did the work, hoping to get paid. And this particular contractor thinks that we can just write a check and that we have the money. And we don't. It's over $20,000. And as some of you may know, it's not an itemized budget. It is not a motion budget item. We can't pay it. We'd have to go to the Board of Finance and the Town of Selectmen and have a special town hall meeting where everybody in the town gets to vote. And that costs a lot of money. And therefore, it's not going to happen, to be quite honest. You know, those type of meetings happen when there's like an emergency to fix the school roof or something that everyone in the town can agree to, that no one could plan for. So, is there any other questions? Okay. There's also some correspondence that I didn't get a chance to send you the details, and it's not much of the details, and I'm still figuring it out. We got about 4, maybe 5 email receipts. So let me back up. The town of Old Lyme has switched from an old email system that no one liked, or let me just, my opinion, I hated, and I know a couple other people hated. It was very inflexible, to Microsoft Exchange, which is more modern and seems to work. So anyways, we got these 4 or 5 email receipts that were, subject title was requesting for a pump out exemption. The town of Old Lyme has a requirement of every 7 years you pump your septic system. We don't have the detail on these. We don't have the context on these. We don't have any detail on it, but we're still trying to figure out where the actual email is requesting this, because we didn't get the actual email requesting it. So we may have 4 or 5 residents requesting to have an exemption from their pump outs. If someone's listening to this and they sent in a request for exemption, please send in a new one. Because we can't seem to find the details, and in that, describe why you want it. That will help us make a decision. And then what we've done is, in the past, is we've done a case by case basis of these pump out exemptions. And I will say, we generally, at least in my history of this, we don't approve these. Unless somebody can demonstrate that the house's utilities were shut off, therefore it was not used. We normally get someone that says, I don't use my house that much, therefore I don't have to do this. Or my system's fine, I don't have to do this. And we can't approve that kind of scenario. So are any questions about that correspondence? Yeah, Steve. And oh, by the way, we might want to bring up new business as, this, exemption thing. But go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, sometimes I've experienced what looks like a faulty email, but the people sending it have their name and their address. And
The email is the subject, request not to pump out. And so I think it could be that they're thinking that that's enough. You have their name and you have a request not to pump out, and that's their email to us.
Well, in this
Obviously,
case,
that's-
we did not get any the emails. So all we got was administrator saying
Gotcha.
with the subject of like 22 whatever road, but no person way to contact the owner or
Yeah.
anything like that.
All right.
So it was described as an email receipt.
Somewhere.
So it was part of this report that said they document that this email was
Yep.
received, except we can't find the emails.
Huh.
And Jennifer, I don't know if you want to comment if you've learned anything more about this. I asked Jennifer if she could look into this, and not that she's a technician on this email stuff, but maybe she knows somebody.
In
Right.
process. We're working on it.
Okay. All right. That's all the correspondence that I had. Item 6, new business. Does any WPCA members have any new business to raise? Okay. At this point, it's public comment. And if for those that haven't done the public comment in the past, what you can do, and virtually it's hard to figure out who's talking. So if you could say your name, and I'll recognize you, and then you can speak. And the public comment, we prefer it to be about the WPCA issues. There is a time limit to some extent. Of course, we'll have some latitude, but if someone goes on and on and on, I may ask you to shorten your comments. We don't directly respond back to the comments. What we do is we'll close the public comment session, and we may or may not respond. And we'll be taking notes on this, and it'll help us to get some feedback from the public. So at this time, if someone would like to make a public comment, please say your name and I'll recognize you. If you're saying your name, I don't hear anything.
This is Colin Yankee.
Colin Yankee, you're recognized.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I have gotten several emails from Wind River Septic saying that my septic system needs to be pumped. Of course, you check with this town system, and I had just had it pumped 2.5 years ago, which is well within the time frame. I finally got a hold of somebody there. They didn't respond to email replies, and they said, "Oh, well, they feel that you should pump it every 2 to 3 years," which I felt was very much I let them know that it was kind of scammy. Is that the right word? The way that they were doing it, because their emails come out pretty much saying you have to get yours pumped, and it's a call for action, and the only thing that they allow you to do on the email is press a button to schedule a pump out.
Yes.
So there's something going on there. I don't know if there's anything WPCA can do about it, but I don't know if
Thank
you've
you
had
for-
other comments.
We'll the way this works is we'll take your comment now and we'll respond to it later. Thank you, Colin. Do you have anything else, Colin?
No, not right now.
Thank you. Anyone else like to make a public comment?
I would. This is Mary Daly. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mary Daly, you're recognized. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hey, just in regard to an old subject, the grinder pumps again. The prior meeting, before the one that was canceled, there were some comments that were made that my explanation of a rather high electric bill could be attributed because the building was multifamily, which it is. But that bill is an owner's meter, and the only thing on that owner's meter is two electrical lights in the basement and that grinder pump. So it really just was only the grinder pump, by the way. And it was attributed not to the usage, because that grinder pump only services one apartment with one gentleman in it. It was really attributed to a malfunction of the grinder pump. And that is really the concern. It's not the cost of running the grinder pump. It's the cost of when that grinder pump goes haywire and starts running by itself continually, which it did. But any little thing can throw a grinder pump off. So I just want you to be honest with those people and let them know how serious grinder pumps are. They're not something that you should take lightly. They shouldn't be installed just because they're very, very delicate items. I did walk the area. I do have a list of the proposed 9, I think, grinder pumps for Area B. And I walked that area to try to understand, because in regard to the one that I own, I only have that grinder pump because that apartment was added afterward and the bathroom is sub-level, which I don't think that's happened in Area B. I don't believe that Woodward and Curran went inside anybody's home and tried to determine where their facilities were or what their needs were. But when you walk the area and you take the list of addresses that were published, it's very strange. It's sort of like Teddy's Pizza needs a grinder pump, but Rooney's package store, which shares the same parking lot, doesn't need a grinder pump. The house next to the police station needs a grinder pump, but the police station doesn't need a grinder pump. It just goes on and on like that for the entire list. It's like this house does, the house right next to it within feet of it doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. So I think in the end, there's about 40 properties in Area B, and if one needs a grinder pump, the neighbor needs a grinder pump as well. And I think it's going to be quite more significant than what was originally stated by Woodward and Curran. I think it's a recognition by Woodward and Curran that gravity alone is not suitable for this community, especially in the off season when there won't be enough thrust to keep the pipes clean or to keep things moving. And I think, Mr. Tsunami, you made that point yourself in the past. So again, I think you should review the concept of grinder pumps, the locations, the number and the cost and the liability, not only to the people who will unfortunately have to live with those grinder pumps, but the town too as a liability. Because when your pump goes, you cannot stay in that home. You must leave. And that will be on the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Any other public comments?
Rich, I can go ahead and mute everybody. If anyone
Sorry,
else-
Jennifer, could you say that again?
I can try and unmute everybody because I don't know if the phone call users can unmute themselves easily.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah,
All right,
yes,
what
that's the,
happens.
go ahead, unmute everybody. If you're trying to make a public comment, sorry, we didn't hear you. So if you'd like to make a public comment, say your name and we'll recognize you.
Hi, Dennis Maluzzo.
Hi, Dennis, you're recognized.
2 things. I'm going to give a suggestion on, and you can apply it to wherever it has to go. But if someone wants to get in contact with Jennifer, they either have to call her on the days that she's working, okay, or leave a message and then wait for her to contact, versus on the website, it doesn't give her email address. I think that would help a lot if I want to contact her on a specific thing. I'm getting up there in age and the hair isn't keeping everything in the brain. I constantly forget her email address. So I'm looking for a suggestion that be added to the WPCA website. So anyone who wants to contact WPCA has a listing. It's very tough. This town has a very tough email system, and you don't know what it is. That's the first thing. The second thing I have a question on is design group meetings. Have we had any in the past, ever since the January, February, March, April 6th meeting? Have we had any design group meetings? And if so, how come there are no agendas and no minutes published? We're talking transparency here. It might be mundane to one person and critical to another person to know what's going on in that group. Well abandonment came out of that group. Grinder pumps came out of that group. We as the public need to know when that group is meeting and what is being discussed. Okay, that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Any other public comment? I'm not hearing any public comment. Is there a public comment?
May
Okay,
I ask one more question before we finish this is Mary again.
Mary, go ahead. You recognize Mary.
I just would like to know, have you made any progress at all in regard to the Hawks Nest testing analysis of that data? I think it's very critical at this point that the WPCA take that, you've completed the testing, you have the test data. It's been significant time and it's sort of been ignored. And yet I think it's very, very, very critical at this point that be analyzed and that those results be published. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Any other public comment? I'm not hearing any public comment. I see a lot of muted. So I think if you're trying to talk, you have to unmute your phone. All right, I'm going to close the public comment session. There's a couple of things. West Wind River, they are doing this for years and they do not listen to us. It is misleading advertisement if you ask me and if you ask people that get it. There's more than one person has come up to me and said, I got this, I'm worried, I'm afraid my system, and I'm like, well, go into the town website, go to the Carmody thing, septic service check your records. If you're concerned, you can get your system pumped out, but don't let West Wind River decide when you get it pumped out, unless you have some technical discussion with them. And they don't seem to want to listen to us. I just, the companies out there like that, it's not very good. Grinder pumps. I don't know if you all know this, but the private beach associations will also be installing grinder pumps in certain locations that don't have gravity feed. They're doing it differently than us. They are saying the customer, the resident, owns all responsibility and cost of the grinder pumps, while we are saying, as of last I remember, we, the town, will run the ownership of those pumps. I don't know what's right or wrong. The location of the need for grinder pumps is defined by the engineers, and when we get the funding, we'll have a better definition about why. But what general explanation that we were told is they have a certain flow rate and a certain slope that has to be met. And when they look at the topography of the houses and where the pipes have to be starting underground at that house, they don't have enough gravity flow for that system to work. So we're not going to second guess the engineers. We will question them, because it adds a lot of expense and complexity to our system. But we have to do that. As far as contacting Jennifer, on the town website, there is an email for contacting her or contacting us. And it may be Jennifer has multiple emails because she job shares, as I understand it. So I encourage you to go to the WPCA page, and in the middle of the page, it says email Water Pollution Control Authority, and then there's a WPCA@oldlyme.ct.gov. And we'll get it if you send it there, as far as I know. And if you don't get a response, then maybe there is some kind of problem and we're not getting it. Jennifer, do we get a lot of emails through that email address?
I do, but as you mentioned earlier, we did just recently upgrade our whole system, and so we can do a test and see. But I get them from you, and I have received some other ones regarding some other issues. So
Okay. It was kind of hard to hear you, Jennifer. So I'm just going to repeat what you said. Is that we do get emails, although recently we switched email systems and we found a couple weird things happen, so we have to check to see if we're missing some. Did I paraphrase that for you? Okay, she's nodding yes.
I do work part-time, Dennis is correct, but if someone leaves me a phone message, I will get back to you my next work day.
Yeah.
I do get a lot of phone calls about.
She does. Let's see, design group meetings, meeting minutes for a committee that's a task force is tough to find sometimes, because I think it's not in a regular place, in a regular folder in the town's meeting minutes, but it's supposed to be there. And the agenda gets posted 24 hours in advance, usually more than that, because Steve usually has to get members to attend and has to give them notice. I don't know if there's been a lot of design meetings. There's been discussions of having design meetings. And then I would say one more thing is that the design group is recommending things to this committee. This committee decides. So the design group is doing research and they have some expertise, and that way it gives them a chance to focus on the issues, and then they make a recommendation. So it's not like the design group is going to make a decision that none of the WPCA members know about. As far as Hawks Nest testing, that is on hold. We are focusing on this because this project has huge financial implications for the residents of Old Lyme. We don't have unlimited capacity, so we're making a compromise, and the state fully understands that. When we get some of this Soundview sewer projects going and it's automated somewhat, we can go back to doing other things. But right now, if we had to choose one or the other, we're choosing the Soundview sewer project because there are financial implications if we delay. So I made a bunch of comments. I don't know if any WPCA members would like to add further comment. Steve, I see your fingers going up, but that's.
Yeah, the agenda is posted. Well, the agenda is requested to be posted when I send out the agenda to everyone. It's also sent to the town requesting posting. We haven't had another meeting since April. So the previous months or the previous meetings minutes, April's meetings minutes will not be on the website until we meet again and approve them. I think that's my understanding.
Yeah, unapproved minutes don't get put on the website.
So that's why you haven't seen them, Dennis. But like Richard said, everything that's discussed in those meetings isn't secret. They're then brought to the full board for discussion. So there's no secrets, but it's not transparency. It's just that we haven't met, so we haven't approved the last minute's meetings.
Can I
But there will
clarify
be.
that?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the website right now, and the minutes from the April 6th meeting are posted on the town's website. They're just posted in the list of all the WPCA
Oh,
minutes. They're not. There's not a separate section for the design task force.
That's what I was
So maybe-
referring to. Trying to find them sometimes is a challenge.
maybe we've had another meeting since.
If anyone has a specific date that they're looking for, call or email me. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Rich, can I have one more thing?
Yeah, sure.
It's just in the interest of transparency, and because we did have some tech problems earlier in the evening, and some people are calling in when they might have videoed in. To unmute yourself from a phone call, you have to push *6 on your phone.
*6. How to mute yourself?
How to unmute yourself.
Right. So that's how you unmute. How do you mute yourself? Was it ** or *99?
I didn't look that up. I just looked up the unmuting if somebody
Oh,
wanted to
sorry.
add a comment.
So *6 is to unmute. I'll mention that next time. Final WPCA comments on the public comment. I'm not seeing anybody wave their hands. I'm not hearing anything. Okay, so let's go for adjournment. All the WPCA members in favor of adjourning, raise your hand.
We need a motion, Rich?
Oh, can I have a motion or adjournment? Sorry. So Joe did a motion to adjourn and Steve seconded. Open discussion. Okay, call a vote. All those in favor of adjournment, raise your hand. Rob McCarthy, how do you vote? You're on mute.
*6.
*6. *6. Well, let the record show that everyone voted unanimously and Rob McCarthy was not able to vote. So the motion
I
carried.
vote to adjourn too. I finally found unmute.
Oh, okay. So unanimously carried. Thank you everybody for attending tonight's meeting. And good night and stay safe. All right. Bye now.
Good night, everyone.